Today, we're digging into a really critical issue in Bangladesh. It's a story about a growing crisis. We're talking about massive unemployment among its millions of university graduates.
So, to really get this, you have to understand the bigger picture. Bangladesh is sitting on what you might call a demographic goldmine. It has one of the largest and youngest populations in all of South Asia. This should be a massive engine for growth, right? Well, instead, a pretty troubling paradox is starting to take shape.
Get this. In 2024, the unemployment rate for young people with a bachelor's degree hit a staggering 13.5%. Just let that number sink in for a second. We're talking about millions of educated, ambitious graduates ready to work, only to find out that the doors are pretty much closed. Now, this isn't just some random statistic. It really points to a systemic failure. So what's actually going wrong here? Why is a country with so much potential struggling to employ its brightest minds? That's the huge question we're going to try and unpack.
And that brings us to the core of the issue, what we're calling a paradox of potential. To put it simply, the country is churning out more graduates than ever before, but the economy just isn't creating enough jobs for them.
And what's really revealing is when you compare it to its neighbors. At 13.5%, Bangladesh's graduate unemployment rate is significantly higher than India's. So this tells you the problem isn't just some regional trend. It's a specific and, frankly, urgent challenge for Bangladesh. So, to understand why this is happening, we've got to look at this deep disconnect between the country's education system and its economic reality. This really lays out the whole problem perfectly, doesn't it? On one side, you have an education system that's hyper-focused on theory and rote memorization. And on the other, you have an industry that's desperate for practical, real-world skills. And there is a massive gap right in the middle. And just how big is that gap? Well, this number says it all. A staggering 78% of employers say they need 6 to 12 months of extra training just to get new graduates job ready. The universities, well, they just aren't finishing the job. So, what specific skills are missing? When you ask HR professionals and academics, they point to the same things. A serious lack of critical thinking, problem solving, communication skills, and even basic stuff like professional etiquette. These are the crucial skills that actually turn a degree into a career.
And this assessment from the World Bank, it really puts the quality issue in stark relief. It found that 12 years of school in Bangladesh is basically equivalent to just over 6 years of actual learning somewhere else. That's a pretty damning indictment of a system that's prioritizing the quantity of graduates over the quality of their education.
But behind all these stats and reports, there are real people. So now, let's explore the profound, personal impact this crisis is having on the graduates themselves. This quote from an unemployed graduate, it just captures the immense psychological burden. It's this feeling of responsibility mixed with shame and dependency. That is a heavy, heavy weight to carry. And then there's this, the social pressure. That constant comparison to your friends, your family. It just creates this cycle of frustration and really erodes your self-worth. Every success story for someone else can start to feel like a personal failure. But this quote, this one, from a female graduate, is particularly shocking. It shows how these traditional gender norms can create toxic family dynamics, where unemployment is somehow seen as better than a woman going out to work. It's like an invisible barrier on top of all the others. So the crucial point here is that this is not just an economic problem. Sociological studies back up these personal stories. They directly link graduate unemployment to severe stress, anxiety, depression, and even the breakdown of family relationships. Okay, so that's the problem. It's a big one. But this situation isn't hopeless. There are clear, actionable ways forward. In our final section, let's look at what it would actually take to rebuild this system and finally bridge this devastating gap. Experts have laid out a pretty clear roadmap for reform. It starts with modernizing what universities teach to actually meet market needs. It means real collaboration between schools and industry, so students get some real-world exposure. It also means promoting vocational training, which is so important for a country with a huge manufacturing base. And finally, it demands fostering a true culture of entrepreneurship, so people can create jobs, not just fight for them. And if you're thinking, can this really be done? Well, large-scale reform like this is possible. Just look at Rwanda, which slashed the red tape that was stifling business. Or Chile, which seeded a whole thriving startup ecosystem. Or Georgia, which famously took on corruption head-on. Bold change can happen. And really, this is the ultimate goal, to transform Bangladesh from a nation of rent seekers
into a nation of value creators, to build a system where young people are empowered to create new opportunities, not just compete for a handful of existing jobs.
So we end where we began, with this central question. You see, Bangladesh's demographic dividend, it's not a guarantee, it's an opportunity. And if it's left unaddressed, this massive pool of educated, unemployed youth is a powder keg of frustration. But with the right reforms, it could become the engine for a future that actually works for everyone. The choice is now.